Good evening, and welcome to our School Board Candidate Forum. I'm Sandy Whistler from Citizen Advocates for Public Education, also known as CAPE. CAPE is a local public education advocacy group here in Lake Mills, and our mission is to support and advocate for quality public education as evidenced by the quality of our teachers, our facilities, and our programs. We work to inform the public about current educational issues, but we do not support a political party or individual political candidates. We are here tonight so that you can meet the three candidates for the LMASD School Board. Steve Bauer will moderate, and the candidates, and I'd like to introduce them to you now, are Andrew Palmer, Brianna Beselick, and Ken Eimers. Each candidate is going to have an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then they'll have 2 minutes each to answer 6 questions which we had prepared and sent to them prior to the forum. Following that, with the time remaining, we will entertain questions from our audience. If you wish to ask a question, please send it to us through Facebook Messenger and include your name and address. We will cover as many questions as possible in the time that we have allotted. So we'll get started, and Andrew, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to the forum this evening. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Lake Mills, committed to the community, love what the city stands for, embrace the true feeling of community that is Lake Mills. I look forward to interacting with the group, sharing ideas, and ideally, we'll continue my stretch on the board.
Hi, my name is Brianna Beslick. I want to thank CAPE for hosting and organizing the event tonight, Steve for moderating, and everybody for viewing. I was born and raised in a small rural town called Monroe, Wisconsin. My mom was an educator, and everyone at school was like our extended family. As I've looked back through my high school and college and even current activities and jobs, I spent a lot of time swimming, singing, volunteering, participating in clubs, various church activities, and working with kids. I graduated from Carroll College with a degree in elementary education. After graduating in December, I finished school and took a long-term sub position in McGuanago in 2nd and 6th grade. My first teaching position was in Monroe, and there I taught kindergarten and 1st grade. Then I accepted a 1st grade position in Fort, where I then continued on teaching 2nd grade. And after 8 years of teaching, it was a really hard decision, but my calling was to be at home with my boys. We've been in Lake Mills for about 4 years and have loved every single minute we've been here. About 18 months ago, my husband and I bought a business. I quickly had to learn the ins and outs of the business world, building business plans, creating company policies, payroll, HR, budgeting, building rapport with customers and our vendors, many, many other things. But all of these experiences, both in the business world and in the school system, have helped me to understand best practices. As we continue through the pandemic, I'm excited to share my passion for education and learning.
Thank you. My name is Ken Eimers. I just want to thank First CAPE for setting up the forum and inviting me here today, and for Steve to moderate. My wife Cheryl and I have lived in Lake Mills for about 30 years now, and have really enjoyed the community and just the experience of it. When I first moved here, you couldn't actually buy a pair of socks. So now there's plenty of places to get more things. I did raise my family, my 2 daughters, through the public schools in Lake Mills and through kindergarten and graduation. And they went on to further their education after that. And I currently have a grandson that is in 8th grade that we help a lot in school as well. So I've been a benefactor of basically the Lake Mills school system, have really been appreciative of it. My own background is a bachelor's in history from UW-Madison, and a little later, a bachelor's in information technology from University of Whitewater, mainly around software development and data analysis. For the past 18 years, I've been working in a nonprofit, government-funded organization that helps people live more independently in Wisconsin. Until retiring, 12 years of that 18 was spent as part of an executive team primarily. I was primarily in operations, which included a number of areas. Today, I frequent the high school quite a bit on the tennis courts, and yesterday I just learned how to play pickleball. So I continue to enjoy the Lake Mills community. It's been a great thing.
Thank you very much, Ken, Brianna, and Andrew. The first question that we're going to pose pertains to the strengths of the Lake Mills School District. So what do you view as the greatest strengths of the Lake Mills Public Schools? And Brianna, I think I'll start with you. Please, go ahead.
Sure. So before we moved to Lake Mills about 4 years ago, I did a ton of research on the surrounding towns, their community involvement, their park and rec programs for kids, their schools and curriculum. As a former elementary teacher, I had the bar set pretty high because I wanted the best for my boys. So fast forward to now, and here we are, and we couldn't be happier. So Lake Mills has a lot to be proud of. The community and the school work together. They support each other. For example, CAPE is such a unique group to Lake Mills, and I boast to lots of colleagues as we connect about schools and all of the awesome things that they do. Our community was so excited when our girls and boys were state-bound this year. There were signs and windows decorated with their congratulations. But our community also supports us through the referendums that they've passed over the years. When I was hired as a crossing guard, it was evident to me that we're all in this together. The school district works as a team. The relationships within the district between colleagues, students, and staff and students are built, and that's what makes it a positive culture and what makes our schools thrive. Our district has won many awards for their green buildings and platinum LEED certifications. Our facilities provide a wide array of classrooms and equipment for students and the activities that they do to create a whole learner. Having all of these opportunities helps set us apart from other districts and prepare our students for life. But we have to remember, buildings are just buildings. It's the staff that makes the difference. They are the ones who go above and beyond, and they are the ones who make the difference in the lives of our youth.
Thank you. Ken, please.
Thank you. I would say in terms of what stands out most for me from the school district standpoint is the workforce. As a parent and now a grandparent, there's just a lot of interactions with the different people in the district, school district, and I guess I'd characterize all those interactions. People have been very positive and constructive in their interactions. So for me, that just as a parent and someone who cares about their kids getting a good education, that was a pretty big deal. Even to the extent that my grandson had decided to do the virtual school this past year. But now he's back. But during that time, I was his support to help him day to day with that schooling. And I was just amazed at how positive and, we can get it done that came across the screen virtually, which is, I know, not an easy thing to do. I was just so impressed with the positive approach, I guess is what I'm saying, is a big thing. The next thing I would say I've noticed more prominently is Lake Mills really having an increasing focus on quality improvement over the years. And that, I think, has stood out in terms of, most recently, a survey that was done to get input from the community, and that was very valuable. I'd also say I've seen over the years a lot of progress in facilities. So I think it's the workforce, the attention to quality improvement for academic achievement and education, and then facilities.
Thank you, Ken. And Andrew,
Thank you.
greatest strengths?
I think it all starts with community support. Brianna mentioned referendums over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. The facilities that we have, we've been able to maintain through the community support, not just in financial support, but also in activity support. I believe that the backbone of the success of this school district, built on that community support, is the strengths of our administrator, principals, and staff. This year has been amazingly challenging. Lake Mills set the bar again this year, and that was done completely on the backs of Dr. Olson, the principals, the teachers, their dedication to keeping our kids in school, keeping our kids achieving in the best way that they can. I'm going to work to make sure that we create a workplace, keep a safe workplace, maintain our buildings so that we can continue to grow, continue to capitalize on the strengths.
Thank you, Andrew. Ken, I would like to go with you with the next question. And what do you view as the greatest challenges of Lake Mills Public Schools?
Sure. I think to start with, kind of the lens I would look through in terms of, evaluating challenges just in general is what impact that challenge has on the student-teacher relationship. I know some things are hard to kind of trickle down to that point, but that would be a fundamental piece for me in terms of looking at key challenges. Having worked with government funding for many years and kind of getting informed on public school funding, I think one of the bigger challenges will be funding and filling some gaps that we have, special needs, counselor services, class sizes, keeping them from growing. But the kind of doing more with less, if you want to say it that way, would be one challenge. Hopefully not less, but then I think there's a lot of increasing emphasis on what is life after school for the students. It's not always just your traditional college. It can be the military, technical school, internships, apprenticeships, going to a job. And I think that this is an important challenge for the Lake Mills School District to accommodate that diversity. Another piece that I've picked up, and I don't really have specifics for Lake Mills, but I know just in Wisconsin there is a growing concern about teacher shortages. The applicant pools being smaller, teachers retiring, not as many coming into the profession. So teacher retention for me would be an important challenge. And the last one is technology, keeping pace with the emerging classroom trends and adapting those trends to translate to the workforce for students.
Thank you, Ken. Andrew, challenges.
Thank you, Steve. I would break it down into 3 categories. Planning for growth of the community. Take a look around. Lake Mills is expanding on both sides, north and south. We have active population studies and planning studies that show that will likely increase enrollment demands. 2, meeting the challenging needs of our students. Again, the diversity of classwork, whether you're tech school bound, whether you're going to be an auto mechanic or whether you're going to be a PhD. We want to make sure that we've got the programs, the facilities, the technology to help develop the skills needed there. And third, balancing the community expectations while keeping Lake Mills School District a competitive workplace. We want to make sure that we do retain the best teachers, that we continue to evolve, that we continue to succeed, and demonstrate to the communities around us what leadership looks like.
Thank you, Andrew. Brianna?
We need to take this opportunity to look at our strategic plan through a different lens. The pandemic has heightened our awareness to many issues. Our student learning needs to provide equity, opportunity, and continual improvement that reflects their actual reality. We need to prioritize mental health and wellness, finding proper funding to support students in these areas. When we put a focus on building relationships, we help teach students the value of each other. And by working together, with all of our differences, we are stronger. Students need to feel welcome, respected, valued, and successful. Lake Mills is a growing community with fluctuating demographics. And even as this is a challenge for us, we still need to adhere to our belief systems and provide a quality education for all students. We have to start early, invest in their early childhood programming. This is the foundation for their development. Smaller class sizes have proven to yield better results for building relationships, behavior, participation, and achievement. Students are like snowflakes. Rarely do you find two that are the same, but it's still our job to provide for each of these students. The proper scaffolding and resources will give students the confidence to grow upon their strengths and become more proficient and successful. When I was first applying for a teaching position in 2008, there were 300-some applicants. When they were looking for my replacement in 2017, there were about 50. So the teacher pool has significantly decreased, leaving the competition for those great teachers out there fierce. We need to be able to retain and recruit the top-notch teachers that our students deserve.
Thank you very much. Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this next question. It's got two parts to it.
Okay.
When making decisions for the district, what will be the top 3 considerations you take into account? And then how do you ensure you have all the information necessary to be fully informed and able to consider all the ripples of each of those choices?
Okay. So as I outlined in the challenges section, I think when you're looking to make decisions, you look at things through that lens. How do we plan for the growth of the community? How do we meet the changing needs of our students? And how do we balance the community expectations? Obviously, a huge goal and some significant challenges. How do you get enough information? As Ken alluded to, on the school board, we have done climate studies. We are looking at understanding and strategic planning for enrollment, how enrollment trajectories look for each grade class, how virtual will play into the educational experience moving forward. I think that we also are looking at developing a strategic plan with partnership with people from the community. So the community voice, looking at the growth of the community and understanding emerging trends around educational strategies that are best for the students is the lens that I'm looking to look through.
Thank you. Brianna, please.
Sure. Dr. James Fitzpatrick was my former superintendent, and he wrote the book, Beyond Theory and Degree. He wrote, "There has never existed a leader who made only right decisions. We live and learn." So when making decisions, I would need to become educated on the topic at hand. I need to dig deep and ask questions. When considering all of the possible solutions, I need to wear all of the hats. Students, teachers, including all staff and administration, parents, and community members. I must consider how the decision might affect each of these groups separately and together. A school board member is an advocate for each of these groups. Something that might be a quick and easy fix up front could really hinder and be costly in the big picture. So I have to consider the decision based on the school district's long-term plans. Also, I might need to revisit and reflect upon a past decision. Another consideration might be to ask questions again and network with other school districts. What have they found that works well? We can learn from each other. Information and circumstances can also change along the way, and that might prompt a decision change. For example, I would imagine when cell phones made their way to schools, they were an ever-adapting policy, possibly starting off being banned and then becoming more of a technology tool and more tolerant. But before arriving at a decision, I need to make sure that I've gathered all of the information necessary before coming to a conclusion. Not all decisions are cut and dry, but the students need to be at the heart of every decision. As a board member, it is important to be transparent with all stakeholders throughout the entire decision-making process.
Thank you, Brianna. Ken, next, would you please answer the questions and then speak up just a little bit more, please?
Sure. In terms of the top three considerations to take into account for decisions, I think the first thing I'd think about is why is this decision needed? What's the nature of the problem or opportunity that's behind the decision? Oftentimes, just in my past, things have come to me with solutions, and I'm, always like to back up to find out how we got to that point. I would use that same kind of thinking here. I'd ask the question, well, how does this decision benefit the Lake Mills School District overall as a whole? And who are the people that are affected by the decision and should be consulted as part of the decision? In terms of ensuring that I have all the information necessary and fully informed, certainly you would want to tap into the key stakeholders, people in the community, the district, teachers, and students at that point, depending on what the nature of the decision was. I will say sometimes it's as important to, I like to put myself in their shoes and kind of really understand what perspective are they coming at, why, how are they looking at this particular issue, in addition to just the information. In terms of knowing all the ripples, I will say I'm one in business, have always tried to phase things in, knowing that there are always issues that come up, and try and mitigate and actually make the customers part of the process even at that point. In the public school system, I think there's areas you can do that in technology and some of the others. But I'm not as familiar where, if, for example, if it was a new way of teaching or curriculum, if that can be phased in or not. I'm just not familiar enough with the school system and how those things work.
Ken, thank you very much. Brianna, I'm going to start with you in this next question. There are three parts to this. What experience do you have in education and working with teachers and students? And then how will you educate yourself about how the school board operates? And then lastly, what is your philosophy on teachers and staff as partners and collaborators with district administrators and the board when it comes to decisions that affect them and the students?
So I was born and raised in the public school system, is what I like to say. School life is what I know. From my mom to being a teacher myself, and now as a crossing guard and having children who are in the elementary schools, I've constantly been in around and communication with teachers and students. As a school board member, I would be on the policy side of the school system. Knowing that this is viewing the school system than what I'm typically used to, I've really been trying hard to understand school board. So viewing school board meetings, reading their recaps, checking out board docs and the policies that this school board has, their long-range plans, and Dr. Tanya Olson's newsletters. I've reached out to those who I know already have a wealth of information experience who could provide me some resources to help guide me through this process. I love learning, and I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves and ask questions. As I read another part of Dr. Fitzpatrick's book, he credited William Attila for explaining the roles and relationships between board and superintendent and educational leadership. He said that the board determines the what, while the superintendent and educational leadership determine the how. Now, because these have rippling effects on each other, in order to make a sound decision on the what, the board needs to ask questions and listen. By asking and listening, the board can really understand the climate of the classroom and what the students and staff need. As a board member, it's our duty to understand the how so that we can create a better what. We are all on the same team. Our vision and mission is to benefit the students.
Thank you, Brianna. Ken, please.
Sure. My experiences actually with education and working with teachers and students, probably twofold. One is just as a parent and grandparent. So I've really, my interactions with the school system have been through that window, as well as being involved with the rec department and some of this extracurricular things. That's been mainly my experience. In terms of, personally, I am a volunteer literacy tutor for Jefferson County, and I do get quite a bit of interaction with some educators in that realm, things I can do better, things I can look at, kind of advice as I kind of grow that skill. I will say this, though. I went through a certification to be a certified teaching English as a second language. I've gained a much larger appreciation for what teaching really involves. And when I first went into tutoring, it was know the content, know your algebra and be able to teach it. Then I'm seeing all these subtleties and managing, tutoring and managing a class of 15 to 20 people is a very different thing, I'm sure. How I educate myself on the board, I would be certainly look forward to onboarding with the board. I have been training on webinars so far, through the Wisconsin Public Education Network with Finance 101, 102, and just recently in the governor's budget. My philosophy in terms of collaboration with teachers and partners in the district, certainly collaborations and creating good channels of communications with teachers and staff would be really important. But my philosophy is really more built around building trust. Just as an example, quickly, one of the things I would do that I did in my past work life is sit in classrooms and really observe at the ground level what's happening. And I think that builds trust with the people, teachers and students as well, that I'm interested in knowing what their experience is like. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And Andrew, and would you move the microphone just a little bit closer? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I've been a part of the Lake Mills community for over 20 years, as I mentioned in my introduction. Active in volunteering, understanding the community and what it needs, what it expects. Coaching at all levels, a parent of 2 students in the district. I have a bachelor's degree in food science from UW-Madison. Very proud of my educational background. As a sitting board member, I have the advantage of on-the-job experience. WASB is a very valuable tool. Having even limited exposure to our talented board and administration has taught me an awful lot in a short period of time. Management skills over many years of project management, and most recently as Vice President of Smithfield Foods Quality Assurance, provide me with the tools to commit to the community, understand the business that is the school system, and it is critical that we interact with our teachers. They are an essential part of the process. We need to work within the framework of the policy guidelines to achieve the district goals.
Thank you very much. The next question pertains to the COVID challenges that we have all experienced in our own way. Ken, I'd like to begin with you, please. This past year has been a particularly challenging one for the teachers, students, and families. What lessons should the public schools take from the pandemic? What can we learn from the in-person student environment that was altered due to COVID, and to what extent should schools be using online learning?
Well, it certainly has been a challenging year, I think, for every school district in the state. And for every school district, you might find a slightly different solution to the pandemic. I have to give our staff here in the Lake Mills district a lot of credit for the commitment they've shown in terms of supporting the solutions, in terms of lessons. I will say I think it was also important that parents had an option for virtual or in person for a period of time. I think what we can learn from the student environment, I know that one of the bigger things that has come up is the smaller class sizes has had a noticeable positive response from teachers in terms of the calmness they've noticed in the classroom. And I thought a fascinating statistic was that the referrals to the office administration in the elementary school for disciplinary or behavioral issues dropped by 80%. So I think there's something we've learned about the size of our classes and how that can, in ways that can benefit the students in particular. To what extent should schools be using online learning? I think more about, certainly there is a lot of online learning out there already. But I think more in terms of the school district, how the multimedia can be integrated effectively into the learning environment. I think that's a very important kind of subtle aspect to this, and I think that's where my focus would be. And there's some practical things of internet access, broadband access in rural areas. I don't really think the infrastructure is quite there yet for what you might consider, full-blown virtual online learning for some students that live in some rural areas. But I do think it's something that's here, and I think it is also something that takes quite a bit of planning and collaboration.
Thank you, Ken. Andrew, COVID challenges.
I think first and foremost, it's important that we recognize the work that has been done and the Herculean effort that it's taken from all of the administrators, as I've mentioned, and staff to make this work, recognizing that a local focus has allowed us to take federal, state regulations, maintain a safe environment, dedicate yourself to discipline in following those protocols. Without the local focus, we're not in school. Without the dedication of our staff, we're not in school. Without the dedication of our students in wearing masks, we're not in school. Those are all so critical to maintaining what we have today and looking into the future as to how we can apply those things. A vision for believing that you can do it is ultimately the philosophy that allowed us to be successful here. And again, make no mistake, it was an accident. It was not an accident, and that without the dedication of our staff, it could not have happened. Virtual, where is it going? It's been my postulation that we don't know yet. We look at returning enrollment to in-class, and we see that it is increasing every quarter. But not everybody's coming back. So we'll need to understand, as a school district, what does that mean? What do we need to offer? How do we do that? I like Mr. Eimer's ideas, some of those including technological solutions for in-class instruction. It's yet to be determined on the virtual front, but it will play a part in how we plan for buildings and infrastructure and technology in the future.
Thank you. Brianna, please.
Our teachers, staff, and administrators can move mountains. They have overcome hurdles and obstacles with grace and dignity. They do more than just provide an education. They love, nurture, support, encourage, inspire, prepare, and lead our students to be their best. The Green and Platinum LEED buildings have shown its importance during this pandemic in better filtrating the air and providing more protection for those opposed to older buildings. But it's what's inside that's most important, the people. The staff and the students deserve a safe and healthy place to work and learn. Our students need to grow as whole learners and deserve a well-rounded education. They need to be together with students and staff to build relationships, learn from each other, and develop skills of tolerance, accepting others no matter what their differences. They need extracurricular activities to provide them life skills, time management, and leadership. But this pandemic has shown some students how their education can thrive through a virtual setting. Our district is already part of a JEDI program, which could be an option for those students who have felt that this was successful for them. Families often depend on our public school for childcare, food, nursing, and counseling. We provide families a wealth of resources and support. Sometimes our schools are the safe haven for kids, their positive environment and their stability. Our schools do so much. We also have the opportunity to look at student growth, achievement, and how we define these. Kids are resilient, and they have learned skills we never thought they would have this year or expected them to. We also know they're like sponges, and they'll be able to move forward if we can close those opportunity gaps that were even present before the pandemic. Teachers need to be able to focus on learning and relationships, not testing. We gather data from the assessments to drive instruction. We want to make sure our time is spent on growing the whole learner, not just teaching to the test.
Brianna, thank you very much. The last question pertains to statewide issues. And Andrew, we'll begin with you, please. Policies and budgeting at the state level impact our public schools in Lake Mills. The statewide voucher program, special education reimbursement, and per pupil spending are some examples. What will you do to educate yourself about these policies and budgeting issues, and how will you use this information when making decisions at the local level?
I consulted our state representative for this district. She reminded me that our funding at the state level for public education was higher than it's ever been last year. Our COVID reimbursements, I think, will show that over the course of the next couple of years, our budgets will be sound. It is critically important as we look at the demands of our district, why students might choose a school outside of our district. Why would they do that? I think the answer comes is that we're not offering or would not be offering something that would appeal to them. I think as a school board, it's our role to truly understand what the future of education looks like, how we can most appeal to the broadest group of students. Again, the goal of the district is creating opportunities for all students for the future. In doing so, you set yourself up for rising enrollment, for a greater funding because of enrollment. Success breeds success. If we can meet the needs of the community, meet the needs of all students, we will be successful.
Thank you very much. Brianna, please.
So when I had a question while navigating the business world, because remember, I'm all about school, this is a new adventure for me, I did a lot of research and I asked the experts. The Wisconsin Public Education Network has been instrumental in providing forums in regards to all of these matters. Even with all of my experience within the school system, I still have been learning so much. I have even watched some of the recordings more than once. There are many layers and branches to school finance alone. It's not as simple or as transparent as one would hope. The Wisconsin Association of School Boards is another resource available with conferences, events, books, and articles. As a school board member, it's my job to be an advocate for all students. I need to communicate the needs of public schools to other levels of government and advocate for for strong public schools. Building rapport and community with our community members will allow me to have conversations in regards to students' best interests. With funding as it currently is for public schools, we're no longer providing all children an equitable education. The current system is not set up to support all kids, and helping others to understand this brings power to provide an equitable education and change lives. A great school board member will focus on what's best for all students.
Miranda, thank you very much. And Ken, please.
Thank you. Well, along the way, I've been actually as well watching the webinars from the Wisconsin Public Education Network on funding and several other issues as well, voucher systems. And that's been very, very helpful. You know, being new to really public school systems and some of these things, it gives you a bit of a background to work with. I think, though, in terms of educating myself beyond that as a board member, I would want to really talk to the people that have a much deeper understanding of the trends of these issues. You know, in webinars, oftentimes you just hear what's today. It's sometimes very helpful to know where we've been and where people think we're going. So that would be a more personal venture for me to learn from other people on perspectives, basically. And I think in terms of how to use the information, I really would want to focus on, well, certainly what's best for the Lake Mills School District in terms of keeping it healthy, keeping enrollment healthy, keeping our district competitive relative to other private or semi-private schools. And certainly in terms of funding and policies, understanding how those things interact with the operations and the budget of the school system would be important for me. So I would look to both educating myself, through webinars, I know there's an onboarding process in the board as well, and I would be wanting to access the people that can help me learn to a deeper extent some of these areas.
Well, thank you very much. Brianna, Ken, Andrew, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to Facebook Live questions. Please remember you can submit those and then include your name and address. Thank you. Sandy.
At this point, we haven't received any questions from our audience yet. I'll give you a couple of minutes. If you want to send us one, please do, and we will share it with the candidates. I would like to offer the candidates a moment, a minute or two for each of you. If you'd like to make a kind of summary closing statement, feel free to do so. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. But I'd like to give you one more chance to just to share some of your thoughts and your concerns as you are running for our school board.
Thank you, Sandy. Brianna, we'll start with you. Go alphabetically, as I've been doing all night. So go ahead.
All right, so, you know, being a teacher, being a parent, I feel like I'm wearing many hats already, a business owner, and running for a school board, was kind of a no-brainer for me. It's a selfless service piece that I totally missed being in the classroom. And so this is a way for me to give back to my community and really support everything that they do for our schools, to support our staff and teachers and the amazing work that I've already seen them doing with my children. I mean, my children talk to the screen, goodness sakes, they love their teachers. So it's just one of those things I'm really passionate about. And so I look forward to the opportunity and really helping our district and the students in our district.
Thank you, Brianna. Ken, please.
Yes, I've long had a passion for just learning, being in learning environments, being around people that are interested in that and such. And so after retiring from the 8 to 5 kind of piece, I got into tutoring and then actually submitted a volunteer form to do some work with the school, but that was right before the pandemic. So, but this came up, and I really thought this is one way I can finally give back to the community, where I think some of my skills would be advantageous to the district. So I think for me, it's a passion about learning, kind of an excitement about being around people that are involved with the school district and all the things that it holds for people.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. And Andrew, please.
Last summer during the interview process with the board, I think I framed it up in a way that made the most sense to me, and that was I had a relationship with my neighbor, a mentor, a friend, more like family. And Ev Haglund would meet me at the end of the hedgerow is my story, and he would be there just seemingly always at the right moment. We always talked about giving back, and I've given back at different degrees over the course of my time here in Lake Mills, whether that's through the Lions Club or through at church or coaching my daughters and other children in soccer. I've always been at a point where it made the most sense for me. My experiences bring me to a point where, and really the last several months have confirmed that the school board is the right place for me. I'm able to contribute to the team, able to help make rounded decisions, help bring fresh ideas to the board. I'm excited to continue to do that.
Thank you.
We did have one question. Oh, now we have two questions. Okay. One of them was from Ann Lee, and she asked what your knowledge is of the demographics of our student population. I'd like to just share your response to that, please.
Ken?
Sure. In getting that information, I looked at the report card for the Lake Mills School District, and there is some diversity in the student population, but not as much diversity as you might find in other areas of the state. I think I won't go through the numbers right now, but that is one area that kind of stood out for me. Special education had a very, I think, comparable number of students relative to other school districts that I've seen, and definitely much more, many more special education students in the public system as compared to some of the private schools. So from a diversity standpoint, I think comparably to other places in the state, we're not quite as diverse, but we are more diverse than we were 5 years ago, from what I can see.
I think Ken has summarized it pretty well. We're fairly representative of smaller communities around us. We do have a larger component of special needs students. I think diversity is always an opportunity to learn, create stronger relationships in our community. You know, as a board member, you look to make sure that we have equitable solutions for all of our student body. We continue to do so.
Very good. And Brianna, please.
All right, so DPI has a great place where you can kind of literally find all of these statistics that you're looking for. Sometimes it can be hard to navigate, but it will give you specific numbers. And Lake Mills is a small town, but has fluctuating demographics for sure, between ethnicity, socioeconomical, students with disabilities. So it's definitely something that we need to keep in our forefront as we look at our students and what's best for our district. We need to keep that lens on, thinking about all of those different groups of kids. And so knowing that we want them to be successful. We want them to feel welcome and represented. We need to be able to provide for them and close those opportunity gaps for kids, because I think sometimes we think about, you know, this is Lake Mills, this is small, we might not have those things, but after speaking with one of our elementary school counselors when we kind of first moved here, you know, she had a really good eye-opening viewpoint for me on, you know, some of the things that she does on a daily basis and kids that she works with. So Lake Mills definitely has those needs. I mean, we aren't Milwaukee, but we definitely have needs, and we need to provide for those students and build those students with their tolerance and just really provide for them as a whole learner.
And we received another question just now that connects directly to what we were just talking about. And this comes from Kim Nesting and Kirk Carlos Lund. The question is, how should the Lake Mills School District respond to growing diversity in the district and to the social unrest in our communities?
Andrew, would you please?
Certainly. I think it's important that we look at the community around us, understand how the policies of our school district impact those in it. We've got an extensive set of policies that help us understand how we interact with our students, with our staff. It's important as we move forward in an environment that can be difficult, that can be challenging, that we evaluate the policies, where necessary, make changes to those policies with community input.
And Brianna, please.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to the listening, the asking questions, wearing all of those different hats, and how decisions affect all groups. When you think about people, in my mind, everybody is person and everybody has worth. And so if we start at a young age and we help them to understand that we are all people and we are all respected and we all have value and we all have worth, it's oftentimes, you know, in the youngest of our kids where they don't see those differences. And we really want to make that known and keep that thinking going for them, because we are all different and that's what makes us unique. And so by really showing our community that we support all students, no matter their ethnicity, no matter their socioeconomical status, no matter their disabilities, it doesn't matter. We support them, and they need to feel like they have that support from us as a school district.
Thank you. And Ken, please.
Yes, you know, when I looked at Lake Mills in general, in total, we rank a little above average compared to other school districts in the state. But what that really doesn't show is the gaps that we have in areas like students where English is a second language, special needs students, gifted students. And so I think of, when I think of the diversity of the student population and how to achieve what you would call equity, is really not necessarily giving the same, making sure everybody has the same thing, but making sure every single student gets what they need to be successful. And that's, I think, the challenge that people have talked about here. Where are the gaps? how can we fill those gaps, and how can we make every single student, no matter what their situation is, successful in terms of what they want to achieve in life.
Okay, thank you. And we did receive one more question, and I think we can answer that within our time frame. And this comes from Kimberly Nesting Lund. She asks, what do you believe about the education of students with disabilities? Should they be educated in the general education classroom with support from special education teachers, or are they better served in separate special education classrooms?
Let's see. Brianna?
So I'm going to give you my perspective as a teacher and what I did in the classroom, because I think that that could transition very well into being a school board member and what I think is appropriate. So in my classroom, it was an inclusive classroom. All kids were in there. I wanted all kids to feel like they belonged, and no matter what our differences is, everybody has something to offer. Students were teaching students, teachers were teaching students, and the fact that I could have that inclusive classroom allowed some of those extra helping hands in my room as well. So the special ed teacher or the ELL teacher would come into my classroom and support their student when they needed it, and so that allowed my classroom to then function as this overall amazing community. And so the kids in my classroom would go outside in the hallways and they would see these other teachers and they would really feel connected to the building and really feel like, I am part of this school. Like, this is awesome. They build relationships with other teachers. And so I think it's important to make sure that those kids definitely feel included. And I mean, there are cases in which they have certain things that they might need to be pulled out for or things like that, but for the most part, we want our kids to be included. We want them to feel like they belong, and the opportunities that kids have when multiple teachers are working together and helping a classroom of students is really worthwhile for students in the classroom.
Thank you. And Ken, please?
Yes. I also feel that it's important to have an inclusive classroom, under the idea that there's more to education than just the content of the math class or the social studies class, that there's interactions with teachers and students that really drive the development of all individuals, and students with disability need to be part of that experience in total, so they feel like they belong and they feel like they're in a welcoming environment, and whatever it takes to make that happen is what I would be supportive of. There may be certain instances where special accommodations need to be made for certain. But I think if you look at those accommodations and see how they can be handled first and foremost in the classroom, that gets you a long way towards where you want to be. So I think just in advocating for all students feeling like they're welcome, like this is a learning, positive environment, getting to know other students getting to know each other. Students getting to know each other regardless of their disabilities or uniqueness would be important. Kind of along the theme of, life lessons. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. And Andrew, please.
Thank you. Understanding is developed from a familiarity of closeness, a familiarity of who we have around us and the relationships that develop that. My daughter is a special young lady and truly enjoys the interaction that she has with special needs students in the classroom. I think that's an essential interaction. I also believe that it is important that we maintain the continuity of the educational process for everybody there. So I would embrace in-class participation, and where that's just not possible, make sure that we create opportunities for special needs students that need to learn in a different environment.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you all very much, Andrew, Brianna, and Ken, for being part of this forum. To the audience, if we were not able to get to your questions, or if you have questions at any time, all three candidates said they are happy to answer them, and you can contact them by sending a message to our Citizen Advocates for Public Education. I will send you their email addresses so that you can contact them individually with any questions you might have following our discussion tonight. The recording of our forum will be available on our Facebook page, Citizen Advocates for Public Education, as well as on several city pages. There's the City of Lake Mills Community and Government TV and Facebook page, the Lake Mills TV channel on YouTube, and the forum will also be broadcast on Charter Cable channels 993 and 994. And all of those times will be available tomorrow. I will share them on the CAPE Facebook page, and you'll be able to find them on the city pages as well. I want to thank Steve for moderating. I want to thank our technology person, Melissa Priestley, for running our live stream, and for Brenda Morris for helping with troubleshooting. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to listen, to be informed, and be ready to vote on April 6th. Thank you.